On their wedding night, Leo Anderson woke up on the floor of their new home, a bloody steak knife in his hand. His wife of 3 hours, Claire Sinclair, the woman he'd loved for years, lay in a pool of blood, stabbed multiple times. The trial was a blur. The evidence was damning. First-degree murder. The sentence was 25 to life. As the judge's voice echoed in the courtroom, Leo's world shattered. He loved Claire more than his own life. How could he have killed her? He screamed his innocence, filed appeal after appeal, but it was useless. The next 3 years were 1,000 days of hell. Beatings from guards and inmates alike. Hoses of ice-cold water in the dead of winter. The humiliation of being forced to his knees to lick scraps of food off the grimy concrete floor. The other prisoners would circle him, laughing as they tore at his hair, hissing "wife killer" in his ear. At night, he'd curl up on a moldy cot, clutching a worn wedding photo, the edges soft from his touch. He'd weep silently, the grief and the injustice of poison eating him from the inside out. He tried to end it, slit his wrist 5 times, swallowed a sharpened spoon handle 3 times, smashed his head against the wall twice. Each time, he was dragged back from the edge, waking to a fresh wave of despair. The day he was released, the sunlight was a physical pain in his eyes. He was a skeleton dragging an empty duffel bag. And then he saw her, his dead wife, Claire Sinclair. She was wearing a Chanel couture dress, a vision of impossible beauty. On her face was the same smile he had replayed in his mind 1,000,000 times. She ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck as if he were a long-lost treasure. "Leo, I'm so sorry I'm late," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I was in a coma. As soon as I woke up, I identified the real attacker. You're exonerated. You're free." 3 years of torment erupted from him in a single, gut-wrenching sob. He crushed her to his chest, his fingers digging into the fabric of her dress, terrified that if he let go, the dream would end. Claire stroked his back, her voice thick with love. "It's all over now. We're going home." Back at their Greenwich estate, everything was the same. The sculpture in the foyer, the leather sofa in the living room, the oil painting on the wall. That night, holding her in his arms, feeling the steady, familiar beat of her heart, Leo swore he would spend the rest of his life making up for the lost years. But then he started noticing things. Traces of another man. A short, auburn hair on the pillow next to his in the master bedroom. Not his own black buzz cut. A silk robe in the walk-in closet that wasn't his, carrying the faint, expensive scent of an unfamiliar cologne. He clutched the strand of hair and went to find Claire, planning to ask if she'd hired new staff. The door to the study was ajar, and her voice, light and amused, drifted out. "You know the Sinclair tradition," she was saying. "To officially marry into this family, you have to prove your loyalty. It's an old, brutal custom, meant to break anyone who's only after the money. I couldn't bear to see you go through that, but rules are rules. There had to be a test, a formality." Her voice took on a colder, satisfied edge. "It was Caleb's brilliant idea, really. We'd stage my death, frame you, and send you away for 3 years. It would satisfy the family's requirements, and—" she let out a soft, cruel laugh. "It would give me a few more years to play the field without having to sneak around. Now that you're out, you've passed. You've proven you're worthy of the Sinclair name. And I've had my fun. It's time to settle down and be a good wife." Leo's breath caught in his chest. Claire's voice softened, dripping with a self-serving tenderness. "I'll spend the rest of my life healing the trauma of these 3 years. I'll cherish him. I will love him forever." The world fractured around Leo, crumbling into silent, jagged pieces. The love, the faith, the hope that had been his only lifeline in that hellhole. It all rotted into a gangrenous wound. The wedding, the blood, the cold steel of the handcuffs, the endless beatings and shame. It was all a test, a meticulously crafted performance to prove his devotion. What ancient, bullshit family tradition? It was nothing more than a grandiose excuse. An excuse for her to cheat without consequence, while keeping him on the hook, the man she deemed most suitable for the role of husband. An icy cold crept up from the soles of his feet, spreading through his veins. The hand holding the hair squeezed so tight his nails dug into his palm, drawing blood. He turned, a wooden automaton, and walked back to the master bedroom. "A test. Claire," he whispered into the darkness of the room. "I passed your test of love. But you—" He let out a hollow laugh. "You just failed mine. You're out." He called the lawyer who had defended him 3 years ago, asking about a divorce. "Mr. Anderson," the lawyer said, "Ms. Sinclair was officially declared deceased. While she has now reappeared, her legal status as dead has not yet been revoked. If you can file for her death certificate, then theoretically—" The lawyer paused. "You wouldn't need to go through a complicated divorce. You would be a free man, with full rights to her estate. Leo's fingers tightened on his phone, his knuckles turning white. How long to get the certificate? 3 days if we rush it. 5 at the most. His heart hammered against his ribs. Good. Do it. As fast as you can. Hanging up, he looked around the magnificent prison they called home. Barefoot, Leo began to search for more clues, more traces of his wife's boy toy. He found them everywhere. The auburn hairs were on the arm of the sofa, under the master bed, on the floor of the closet. In the light, they shone with the healthy gloss of expensive conditioning, a stark contrast to his own brittle, prison-shorn hair. The man had been here often, for 3 years. While he was on his hands and knees on a cold prison floor, this man was sleeping in his bed. In the back of a nightstand drawer, he found a thick stack of printouts, wired transfer receipts. The recipient was the hulking, bald-headed inmate who had made his life a living hell. The amount, $5,000. Every single month. The date of the first transfer was the day Leo was incarcerated. They had continued, without fail, for 3 years. The punches, the insults, the freezing water, being forced to lick filth from the floor. Leo's stomach churned, and the ulcer he developed from years of starvation and spoiled food began to ache. $5,000 a month. Over 3 years, that was $180,000. Claire had spent nearly $200,000 to ensure every single day of his sentence was a waking nightmare. Leo slid to the floor, his back against the cold mahogany of the dresser. He remembered how she used to get anxious if they were apart for more than a few hours. He had to accompany her on business trips, to every meeting. Everyone joked he was her human Xanax, the only one who could soothe her volatile moods. How could that woman have left him to rot for 3 years? She hadn't always been like this. Years ago, on a rainy night, her car had been run off the road by business rivals. It had slammed into a stone wall, the engine smoking. Leo had wrenched the door open and pulled her from the wreckage. He'd used his own silk pocket square to stanch the bleeding from a cut on her forehead. "Don't panic," he'd said, his voice steady. "I called 911. In the dim glow of the streetlights, his eyes were full of a gentle, earnest concern. That moment had branded itself on her soul. She pursued him relentlessly, a spectacle for the entire city to watch. She was the sole heir to the Sinclair Corporation, a billionaire, beautiful and desired by all. He was from a middle-class family, with nothing but a decent face and a quiet strength. The world said he was a gold digger, that he wasn't worthy. But she had shielded him from it all. "Leo, trust me," she promised. "I'll make you the happiest man in the world." She fought her family, ignored the tabloids, and gave him a wedding so lavish it was the talk of the country. He thought he had found it, a love that defied class, pure and true. He never imagined she was no different from any other bored heiress, playing with people's hearts like they were toys. What he thought was special was just his own delusion. A soft voice pulled him from his thoughts. "What are you doing on the floor? You'll catch a chill." Claire's warm breath ghosted across his neck as her arms wrapped around his waist from behind. Leo's body went rigid. The stack of transfer receipts in his hand felt like a block of ice. "There's a charity gala tonight," she said, her tone casual but carrying an unspoken command. "Go get dressed. You're coming with me." Leo frowned. "Like this? How can I go?" He was gaunt, his skin sallow and rough. He was a ghost of the vibrant, happy man he'd been 3 years ago. Claire turned him to face her, her gaze intense. "You fool. In my eyes, you'll always be the most handsome man in the room." Her thumb traced his cheekbone. "The place by my side belongs to you, and you alone. Get changed. I'll wait for you downstairs." The sincerity in her eyes was so potent it could have drowned him, if not for the sharp edges of the receipts digging into his palm. On impulse, the words tore out of him. "If you weren't dead, why couldn't you have come forward sooner? A year sooner? Even 6 months? To clear my name, to get me out?" The tenderness in her expression flickered. Her brow furrowed slightly. "But you're out now, aren't you?" Her tone was light, almost amused. "What's the difference? A year sooner, a year later. What's the difference?" A year was 365 days, and every one of those days was a 24-hour night. It was fists and kicks and insults. It was freezing despair and the guilt that ate his heart. It was the agony of wanting to die and not being allowed to. And in her eyes, it was just, what's the difference? Her words crushed what was left of his heart. Even breathing sent a dull ache through his chest. He wanted to say more, but she had already lost her patience. "All right, stop overthinking things." She pulled a small velvet box from her pocket. Inside was a sapphire pinky ring. "This just came in from the auction house. I thought it would suit you. Do you like it?" Her tone was that of a queen bestowing a trinket. "Think of it as a little something to make up for your ordeal." Just then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and a genuine smile touched her lips. She answered the call as she walked away, leaving him with a hasty, "Hurry up and get ready. The driver will be here in an hour." Her voice, now soft and sweet enough to melt butter, carried back to him. "Yes, I got it. It looks perfect on you." Her voice faded down the hall. Leo stood alone in the center of the bedroom, a cold, expensive sapphire in one hand and a stack of heart-shredding receipts in the other. The grand ballroom of the hotel was a galaxy of glittering chandeliers and clinking champagne glasses. It was a world Leo no longer recognized. His and Claire's arrival caused a stir. 100 pairs of eyes locked onto him, curious, disdainful. Whispers followed in their wake. "Is that the Sinclair son-in-law? The one who just got out? He looks terrible. I heard he had it rough in there. Made him crawl, eat dog food, even." Leo held his head high, his gaze fixed straight ahead. "It's over," he told himself. "It's all over." Then, a flash of brilliant red burst into his vision. Before he could even see the face, a figure in a crimson blazer had thrown an arm around his shoulder. "Leo, it really is you. I heard you were out. Man, this is incredible." The voice was familiar, the excitement exaggerated. Caleb Vance, his best friend since college. They had been inseparable, two guys who told each other everything. A lump formed in Leo's throat. He hugged him back instinctively. But as he did, a familiar scent hit him. A cologne, the same one from the silk robe in the closet. He stiffened, slowly turning his head. His eyes landed on Caleb's perfectly styled hair, a healthy, glossy, auburn coif, held in place with expensive pomade. The man who had given Claire the idea to fake her death. The boy toy who had taken his place in his home, in his bed, for 3 years. It was his best friend, Caleb. Leo's gaze dropped, locking onto Caleb's wrist. A stunning, deep blue sapphire watch glittered there. Caleb noticed his stare and grinned, holding up his arm. "Leo, man, we're even twinning. Great minds think alike." From nearby, a connoisseur let out a quiet, mocking laugh. "Twinning? Mr. Vance is wearing the Midnight Star sapphire. Ms. Sinclair bought it at Sotheby's last week. I heard it went for over 10 million. And that pinky ring Leo's wearing? Wasn't that the free gift that came with the watch?" Claire's face flashed with embarrassment. She quickly linked her arm through Leo's. "Leo, don't listen to them. You just got out. I was afraid wearing such a flashy watch would make you uncomfortable. Caleb is your best friend, so I gave it to him," she said, her explanation sounding so reasonable, so considerate. "You two are so close, I knew you wouldn't mind, right?" Before Leo could answer, Caleb jumped in. "Of course he doesn't mind. Claire, you worry too much. Leo and I used to swap clothes in college all the time. What's mine is his." He laughed loudly. "Hey, if it weren't illegal, we'd probably swap wives for a night too." Claire shot him a playful glare, her tone one of fond reprimand. "Don't be ridiculous. You can't share a wife." Caleb just raised an eyebrow at her. For a moment, it was just the two of them, flirting shamelessly, leaving Leo completely on the outside. He stood there in his ill-fitting tuxedo, wearing his pathetic free gift, feeling like a clown. Caleb slung an arm around Leo's shoulder, dragging him toward a circle of trust fund kids and business moguls. "Mr. Astor, this is Leo Anderson, my best friend. He just got out of a little jam. Mr. Sterling, long time no see. This is Leo. Just got back on his feet. You know how it is, prison's no picnic." With every introduction, he casually, deliberately, mentioned Leo's 3 years in prison. The words were like a contagion. People's eyes would flick away, their bodies shifting as if he carried a disease. Leo finally snapped. He yanked his shoulder free. "I'm going to the restroom." He leaned over the marble sink, gasping for air. The door swung open. Caleb walked in, his face a mask of concern. "Leo, you okay? Don't let those elitist snobs get to you." "Enough, Caleb." Leo cut him off, his voice ice. "I know about you and Claire. I know you," Leo continued, his voice low and shaking. "You love to show off. Those hairs you left all over the house. That was on purpose, wasn't it?" The concern on Caleb's face vanished, replaced by a look of relieved contempt. He chuckled. "God, keeping up that act was exhausting. Since you already know, I guess there's no point in pretending." "Why?" Leo's voice was raw. "We were best friends. Why?" Caleb looked him up and down, his eyes dripping with scorn. "We both came from nothing. Leo, are you better looking than me? More charming? Funnier? Why the hell did you get to marry into the Sinclair dynasty and become a king overnight?" His voice grew shrill with years of pent-up jealousy. "So I decided to take it all away from you, including Claire." Leo felt a chill seep into his bones. He forced the words out through gritted teeth. "You're not afraid I'll tell her what you really are?" Caleb laughed. "Go ahead. Tell her. Let's see who she believes." "Me." Her loyal confidant who's been by her side for 3 years? Or you, her jealous, unhinged ex-con husband who just got out of prison? Let's play, Leo. Let's see who's better at this game. Shameless. Unbelievable. Leo was shaking with rage. He shoved past him and burst out of the restroom. Caleb followed close behind. At the top of the grand staircase, just outside, he suddenly grabbed Leo's wrist. Leo spun around, stunned, just in time to see Caleb throw himself backward. "Ah, help me," he screamed. Before Leo could even react, he watched in horror as Caleb tumbled spectacularly down the long, marble staircase. The crash and the scream silenced the entire ballroom. Claire was the first one there, her face a thundercloud as she rushed down the stairs to where Caleb lay crumpled at the bottom. She looked up, her eyes blazing with fury. "Leo, what did you do to him?" Leo stood frozen at the top of the stairs, his hand still outstretched. He dropped it, his voice desperate. "It wasn't me. He threw himself." Claire's grip on Caleb's arm tightened. For a split second, a flicker of doubt crossed her face. Just then, Caleb let out a pained groan. "Claire, don't blame Leo. Prison. It changes a man. He must have picked up some bad habits. It's my fault. I said something that set him off." His words ignited a fire of righteous indignation among the guests. "Did you hear that? Caleb's defending him. What a good guy. Anyone who can survive 3 years in Northwood has to be a violent animal. Look at him. He's got that psycho look in his eyes. He's a monster." The accusations rained down on him. The dark, brutal memories of the prison, the beatings, the humiliation, merged with the condemning faces in front of him. "No, I didn't do it," he pleaded, covering his ears. That flicker of doubt in Claire's eyes was extinguished, crushed by the cord of public opinion. She looked at Leo, her expression dripping with disappointment. "Caleb helped me run the company while you were gone. He took care of everything. He was there for me. And you repay him by throwing him down the stairs out of petty jealousy? I never should have brought you back." All of Leo's explanations died in his throat. The pointing fingers and venomous glares nailed him to a cross of shame. Someone in the crowd sneered. "You say he jumped? Talk is cheap." From the bottom of the stairs, through the gap in Claire's arms, Caleb looked up at him, his eyes glinting with triumph. "Leo, if you can fall down these stairs exactly like I did, right here in front of everyone, then they'll believe you. Claire will believe you." Claire glanced from Caleb's pained expression to Leo's pale face. "He's right," she said, her voice cold. "Either do it, or stop making excuses." Leo stared at her, at the woman he had loved with every fiber of his being. She wanted him to prove his innocence. Like this. A smile, more painful than a sob, twisted his lips. "Fine, Claire. Watch closely." Without another moment's hesitation, he leaned back and let himself fall. Gasps echoed through the ballroom as his back slammed against the hard marble steps. He let his body tumble, crashing and bouncing down the stairs in a heap of limbs and shame. The edge of the final step connected with his forehead, and a warm gush of blood streamed down his face. Claire's brow furrowed, a complex emotion crossing her face. She took a step forward as if to help him. But Caleb immediately grabbed her sleeve, his voice weak. "Claire, I feel dizzy." She looked from Caleb, feigning agony, to Leo, bleeding on the floor. In an instant, that complex emotion was replaced by pure irritation. "Leo, what is wrong with you?" she snapped. "If you pushed him, you pushed him. Is it that hard to just admit it? Why do you always have to make such a scene?" She was convinced he was just being stubborn, refusing to take responsibility. She didn't even bend down to check his wound. She helped Caleb to his feet, tossing a final, icy command over her shoulder. "If you're not dead, get yourself home. Don't embarrass me any further." Then, under the scornful and morbidly curious stares of the crowd, she swept away. Leo lay on the cold floor, blood trickling from his forehead. He stared up at the magnificent, unfeeling crystal chandelier and wanted to laugh. Laugh at his 3 years of absurdity, at his pathetic love, at his blind, stupid life. He dragged his aching body home, one painful step at a time. Pushing open the heavy front door, he was blinded by the bright light of the foyer. His eyes immediately fell on a pair of red-soled Christian Louboutin men's dress shoes, tossed carelessly on the antique rug. The blood in his veins turned to ice. He stumbled into the living room. Caleb was lounging on the sofa, his white shirt unbuttoned to his sternum, revealing a toned chest. And Claire, his wife, was kneeling on the floor, gently massaging Caleb's foot. The scene was so intimate it was nauseating. "What are you doing?" Claire looked up, her brow creased in annoyance. "What took you so long?" Caleb quickly pulled his shirt together. Claire let go of his foot and stood, her tone matter of fact. Caleb's ankle is sprained. I didn't want him going home alone. He'll be staying here for a while to recover. She paused. You can take care of him. Consider it your way of making amends for what you did tonight. Making amends? Leo stared at her beautiful, cruel face, and his stomach roiled. But the death certificate wasn't ready yet. He had to endure. Fine. Caleb smirked. Leo, be a pal and give me some hot water to soak my feet. Claire was just giving me the best foot rub. A nice soak would be perfect. Numbly, Leo went to the bathroom, filled a basin with water, and placed it at Caleb's feet. Caleb dipped a toe in, then immediately recoiled. Ugh, too cold. Add some hot water. Without a word, Leo picked up the electric kettle from the bar cart. It was full of boiling water. Caleb's eyes glinted with malice. You know what? Wash them for me. Leo's head snapped up. Caleb, I'm not your servant. Don't push it. Caleb slammed his foot down in the basin, splashing water all over Leo's face. Leo, don't tell me you still think you're the master of this house. She's sick of you. I'd advise you to leave on your own and make room for me. Leo laughed, a short, bitter sound. Make room for you? In your dreams. Enraged, Caleb suddenly snatched the kettle and poured the boiling water directly onto his own foot. Eh-ha! He let out a horrifying scream as his skin instantly blistered, turning a ghastly, puckered red. Leo stared in disbelief. The man was insane. Claire's footsteps pounded down the hall. What happened? When she saw Caleb's scalded foot, her face went white with fury. Leo, you poured boiling water on him. Once wasn't enough for you? You are beyond saving. It wasn't me. He did it himself. There are security cameras. You can check them. Enough. I believe Caleb. Claire roared. It seems 3 years in prison didn't teach you a thing, except for these disgusting, low-life tricks. She summoned 2 burly bodyguards. There's an old tradition for cleansing evil spirits. It's time we wash that poison out his heart. Leo's eyes widened in terror. Claire, you can't do this to me. Let me go. The bodyguards dragged him outside without a word. In the backyard, the winter air was frigid. They stripped him down to his boxers and shoved him toward the edge of the dark, unheated swimming pool. Caleb, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, was seated in a lounge chair on the patio, watching. He spoke with false sympathy. Claire, maybe this is too much. I know they say that for a man coming from a place like that, a shock of ice can cleanse the soul, a kind of rebirth. But this is so cruel. How will Leo stand it? His words were a subtle reminder to Claire of how filthy Leo was, how badly he needed to be cleansed. Claire's jaw tightened. She gave the order. Throw him in. When he's ready to sincerely apologize to Caleb, you can pull him out. Ignoring Leo's struggles and shouts, the bodyguards heaved him into the freezing water. The shock of the ice was like 1,000 knives stabbing into his skin. He gasped, a piercing scream tearing from his lungs as he fought to surface. A bodyguard immediately used a long pool skimmer to push his head back under. Ms. Sinclair said you can come out when you apologize. From the edge of the pool, Claire's voice was as cold as the water. Keep him under. Leo's consciousness began to fade, the burning cold searing his skin. Through the distorted surface of the water, he could see Claire's indifferent profile and Caleb's triumphant smile. Hours later, they finally pulled him out. His body was blue, his teeth chattering uncontrollably. He collapsed onto the frozen flagstones, every inch of him screaming in agony. Claire turned away, unwilling to look at the pathetic sight. 3 years in prison, and you're still just as stubborn. How do you expect to survive in this family if you can't learn to admit when you're wrong? Her voice was tired, annoyed. Maybe this will teach you a lesson before you get yourself into real trouble. She waved a dismissive hand. Call Dr. Evans. Have him take a look. Then she helped the blanket-wrapped Caleb to his feet and walked back into the warm, brightly lit mansion without a backward glance. When Dr. Evans examined him, his eyes were wide with shock and pity. We need to treat this hypothermia immediately, but he needs a sedative. The pain of rewarming will be unbearable. He could go into shock. He turned to his medical bag. Strange, the morphine is gone. A housemaid whispered, Mr. Vance said his foot was hurting, so he took all the painkillers and sedatives. Leo's lips moved, his voice a hoarse croak. Just do it. Sir, this is going to hurt. As the warm blankets touched his frozen skin, it felt like he was being set on fire. He bit down hard on his lip, a muffled cry escaping his throat. He remembered cutting his finger once while slicing an apple. Claire had panicked, rushing him to the emergency room in the middle of the night. When the doctor was bandaging it, he'd merely winced, and she had nearly torn the place apart. For weeks after, she had all the sharp objects in the house put away and would personally check the water temperature whenever he washed his hands. Now his body was broken and frozen, and all she felt was irritation. As he teetered on the edge of consciousness, he saw a shadow flit past the doorway. The next morning, Leo was woken by shouts and the sound of drawers being slammed. From the living room, Caleb's voice was frantic. "Claire, the Midnight Star watch you gave me is gone. I swear I left it on my nightstand last night." Claire's voice was soothing. "Don't worry. Maybe it just fell somewhere. It's only a watch. If it's lost, I'll buy you another." "But it was a gift from you. It's special," Caleb insisted. "And it's so valuable. What if someone took it?" He lowered his voice conspiratorially. "Claire, I'm not accusing anyone, but you know. People who come out of prison often have sticky fingers. Maybe we should search the rooms. You can never be too careful." Leo's heart plummeted. After a few seconds of silence, Claire spoke. "Have the staff search the guest rooms. In Mr. Anderson's room." The door was thrown open. The butler and a few maids entered, their faces blank, and began tearing through his suitcase and dresser. One of them pulled a velvet box from the pocket of an old jacket. "It's here." Leo's eyes widened. "Impossible. I never touched that watch." No one listened. They dragged him from the bed and threw him onto the living room floor. Caleb trembled with theatrical rage. "Leo, we were supposed to be best friends. How could you steal from me?" Claire's eyes held a flicker of doubt. "What would you even do with this? If you wanted—" Leo pushed himself up, every movement in agony. "I didn't do it. I can barely move. How could I have gone to his room to steal anything?" Claire's hesitation grew. Seeing this, Caleb quickly suggested, "Why don't we check the security footage from the hallway? That would clear Leo's name." The butler quickly pulled up the recording from the previous night. The screen showed a figure with the same haircut and pajamas as Leo, limping down the hall and into Caleb's room. The lighting was dim, the face obscured, but anyone would assume it was him. "No," Leo gasped, "that's not me." Claire turned to him, her eyes dark with disappointment. "Leo, you've let me down again. Stealing. You never learn. It seems prison taught you nothing." Behind her, Caleb spoke, his voice laced with false regret. "Claire, theft is a crime. Maybe he should go back. To get the education he needs to truly reform." Hearing the word back, the blood in Leo's veins froze solid. The dark, hopeless images flooded his mind. The fists, the curses, the rancid food, the endless despair. He couldn't go back. He would not go back. A primal fear overwhelmed all dignity and pain. He found a strength he didn't know he had and crawled across the floor to grab the hem of Claire's dress. "Claire, please don't call the police. Don't send me back there." He looked up, his face a mask of terror. "They'll kill me. Please, for what we used to have." He was nothing, a worm in the dust, begging for a shred of mercy. Claire looked down at the man groveling at her feet, and for a moment, she seemed moved. Caleb immediately leaned in, whispering in her ear, "Claire, this is no time to be soft. If he doesn't learn his lesson, he'll be a liability forever. Do you want people saying the husband of the CEO of Sinclair Corporation is a common thief? Think of the family's reputation." Claire repeated his words under her breath. The family's reputation. She couldn't tolerate anything that would tarnish the Sinclair name. "I'll give you one last chance," she said, her voice hard. "Admit you stole the watch and promise you will never do it again, and I'll consider letting this go." Admit to a crime he didn't commit? His heart, already broken, turned to ash. Leo slowly released her dress. He spoke each word with chilling clarity. "I did not steal anything." His defiance enraged her. "Fine. Have it your way. Don't blame me for what happens next." She turned to the police officers who were waiting by the door. He was caught red-handed, and he still refuses to confess. This is a repeat offender. He needs to be dealt with severely. The cold steel of handcuffs closed around his wrists for the second time. He didn't look at her. He didn't look at Caleb, who was smiling victoriously behind her. He was sent to the county jail on a theft charge, a crime even prisoners despised. The moment the cell door slammed shut, he became a target. Fists and feet rained down on him, landing on his still healing body. The bandages soaked through with fresh blood. A massive inmate grabbed him by the hair and slammed his head against the concrete wall. Crack! Leo's vision went black. A thick gush of dark blood erupted from his mouth. His ears rang, and the world dissolved into darkness. He became aware of the screaming siren of an ambulance. BP is dropping. Severe internal bleeding. Where's his family? Who's his emergency contact? The sterile smell of antiseptic filled his nostrils. He was staring up at the white ceiling tiles of a hospital. A doctor's urgent voice cut through the fog. "His organs are ruptured. We need to operate now. Contact his next of kin. Get them to sign the consent forms." He felt the cold touch of medical instruments on his skin. Dimly, he heard a nurse on the phone. "Hello, is this Ms. Claire Sinclair? This is Midtown General Hospital. Your husband, Leo Anderson, is in critical condition and requires. A man's voice, annoyed and dismissive, came from the other end. Wrong number. The line went dead. Hello? Hello? Ms. Sinclair. The nurse's voice faded, growing distant and blurry. Leo felt a smooth, steady motion. The scent of antiseptic was stronger now. He forced his heavy eyelids open and found himself on a medical bed inside a luxury van. N4 was taped to the back of his hand. A heart monitor beeped beside him, the line weak but steady. A familiar voice spoke. Mr. Anderson, you're awake. Leo turned his head slightly. His lawyer was sitting in the seat next to him. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and held it out. This is what you asked me to file for, he said quietly. Ms. Claire Sinclair's official certificate of death. His voice was low. It's been legally processed. As of this moment, you are a free man. Furthermore, according to marital and inheritance law, all assets registered under Ms. Sinclair's name, including her controlling shares in the Sinclair Corporation, all real estate and liquid assets, will automatically transfer to you within the legally mandated period. Leo's throat was raw. His fingers trembled. Your physical condition is extremely poor, the lawyer advised. It would be unwise to confront Ms. Claire Sinclair or Mr. Vance directly at this time. We could arrange for your hospital records to show that you died on the operating table. Tactical retreat. Leo's heart skipped a beat. It was the only way to get clear, to truly escape her grasp for now. The van pulled smoothly onto the tarmac of a private airfield, where a small jet was waiting. As he was transferred onto the plane, the lawyer stood at the bottom of the stairs and gave him a nod. Godspeed, Mr. Anderson. The cabin doors sealed shut, and the plane taxied down the runway, soaring into the sky. Lying on the medical bed, Leo gazed out the small window. The first rays of dawn pierced through the clouds, illuminating his face. It was warm, bright, and full of the promise of a new beginning. Claire, Caleb, I'll be back, and everything you made me suffer, I will return to you 1,000 times over. In the top-floor conference room of the Sinclair Corporation, Claire suddenly stopped speaking, her hand flying to her chest. A sharp, stabbing pain had shot through her, making her face go pale. Ms. Sinclair, her assistant whispered. Are you all right? Claire waved a hand, rubbing her temples to push back the sudden wave of anxiety. I'm fine. That's all for today. Meeting adjourned. She walked into her private office. The sight that greeted her made her stop dead, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. Caleb was lounging in her black leather executive chair, the throne of her power, fiddling with an expensive fountain pen. For a split second, she saw an expression on his face she'd never seen before, a look that was worlds away from his usual, easygoing charm. It was greed, a raw, calculating hunger. He heard the door and shot up from the chair, the look vanishing instantly, replaced by his customary deference. Claire, you're done with your meeting? He came around the desk, his arms reaching for her waist in a familiar gesture. This time, she sidestepped him, her eyes glancing at the chair he had just vacated. What are you doing here? You should make an appointment with my assistant if you need to come to the office. Caleb's arms froze in midair. His smile faltered. An appointment? He had always come and gone as he pleased. A surge of hatred and jealousy washed over him. He balled his fists, forcing a placid expression. Claire, I've always just dropped by. What's wrong? Things have changed, she said, her voice sharp. Leo is back. We need to maintain a professional distance. It's inappropriate for you to be in my office like this. It could lead to misunderstandings. Caleb stared at her, dumbfounded. So what if he was back? Wasn't he in jail again for theft? Wasn't he the object of her scorn and disgust? Why was she suddenly drawing a line in the sand because of him? A surge of hatred and jealousy washed over him. He balled his fists, forcing a placid expression. You're right. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to surprise you. It won't happen again. Seeing his compliance, Claire's expression softened slightly. Caleb, I know how much you've done for me these past 3 years. I won't let you go unrewarded. She opened a drawer and pulled out a folder and a black credit card, sliding them across the desk. This is the deed to the penthouse at the top of the Olympia Tower. It's in your name, and this card has a $30 million credit line. It's a bonus for your hard work. You've earned it. A penthouse and $30 million. It was a fortune beyond most people's wildest dreams. To Caleb, it felt like a slap in the face. He had never wanted just money. He wanted the title, Mr. Claire Sinclair. He wanted the power of the Sinclair Corporation. He wanted to be the man standing by her side, basking in the envy of the world. He suppressed his rage, forcing a grateful smile. Thank you, Claire. She nodded. I have a client meeting. You should go. And from now on, Please don't come to the office unless it's an emergency. Of course. I won't disturb you. He maintained his polite smile as he walked out, closing the door softly behind him. The moment it clicked shut, his face contorted into a mask of fury. Leo Anderson. That bastard's ghost just won't die. He refused to believe he couldn't win her over completely. He hadn't invested 3 years of his life just to be paid off and dismissed. Just you wait. The private jet landed smoothly at a coastal airport in Northern Europe. Under the care of the onboard medical team, Leo could now sit up on his own. He was transported to a private wellness retreat perched on a cliff overlooking the sea, a place of stark, isolated beauty. He leaned back against the plush sofa cushions and opened the folder his lawyer had given him. Certificate of death. His fingers trembled as they brushed over the name typed in cold, black ink, Claire Sinclair. That name had once been his religion. It was the only light in the endless darkness of his prison cell. He remembered waking up 3 years ago, the sticky warmth of blood on his hands, the cold knife, her lifeless face. He remembered the judge's verdict, the crushing despair of being unable to defend himself. The beatings, the hunger, the cold, the countless times he had prayed for death. All of that suffering had stemmed from one unshakable belief. He had killed the woman he loved. He had hated himself for it, a self-loathing so profound it had hollowed him out, leaving him a walking corpse. And then, seeing her standing there in the sunlight on the day of his release, the explosion of joy and gratitude he had felt. How pathetic. What a cruel, twisted joke. It turned out he hadn't killed Claire Sinclair. Claire Sinclair, with a single, perfectly executed lie, had killed the Leo Anderson who had loved her with his entire soul. A sharp pain, deeper than any physical wound, pierced his chest. He hired the best medical team in the world, sparing no expense. He had to get better. He had to get strong. After a week of intensive tests, the lead doctor entered his suite with a tablet. Mr. Anderson, your physical injuries, while severe, are healing remarkably well. However, she gestured to her own head and heart. Your deepest wounds aren't physical. They're here and here. Years of sustained trauma, stress, and fear have resulted in a severe case of post-traumatic stress disorder. Any trigger related to your past experiences could cause an acute episode. Leo listened, his face an emotionless mask. I strongly recommend concurrent psychological therapy, the doctor continued. We've taken the liberty of contacting one of the world's leading experts in the field. There was a soft knock on the door, and a woman entered. She was dressed in a simple but elegant suit, her demeanor calm and composed. She looked to be in her late 20s, with intelligent, steady eyes that held a strangely calming power. Mr. Anderson, hello. I'm Dr. Evelyn Reed. Leo's gaze lingered on her face. There was something familiar about her, a sense of déjà vu he couldn't place. He searched his memory, but it was a blur. Dr. Reed, he said, his voice still hoarse. I assume the doctor has briefed you on my situation. She nodded, her eyes focused and direct. I need you to fix me, he said, taking a deep breath. As fast as possible. He met her gaze, his own hardening with resolve. Because I have very, very important things to do. The day after Caleb received his $30 million payout, he paid a visit to the county jail. He wasn't there to see his best friend. In the visitor's room, the hulking inmate from Leo's cell block grinned obsequiously. Mr. Vance, just like you asked. We gave a new guy a warm welcome. Didn't hold back. Beat him till he couldn't get up. He was coughing up blood by the end of it. A cruel smile touched Caleb's lips. Good. Keep it up. The inmate looked confused. He was rushed out in an ambulance that same night. Don't know if he made it or not. An ambulance? Caleb's smile froze. He suddenly remembered taking a call for Claire 3 days ago while she was in the shower. Something about critical condition and notifying next of kin. At the time, he'd been so pleased with himself for framing Leo, he'd just said, wrong number, and hung up. Could that call have been about Leo? A jolt of pure ecstasy shot through him. If Leo really was dead, it would save him a lot of trouble. He fixed the inmate with a hard stare. You and I have never met. Keep your mouth shut, and you'll be rewarded. The inmate nodded eagerly. Caleb left the jail and drove straight to Midtown General. He had to confirm it. If Leo was gone for good, his time had finally come. Back at the Sinclair Corporation, Claire paced her office, throwing a stack of financial reports onto her desk. It had been 3 days, and she couldn't focus. Ever since that strange pang in her chest during the board meeting, a sense of gnawing anxiety had clung to her. A dreadful thought surfaced. What if something had happened to Leo in jail? It had been 3 days. He should have learned his lesson by now. Why hadn't he broken? Why hadn't he called, begging her to get him out? All he had to do was apologize, and she would have paid whatever it took to release him. Why do you have to be so damn stubborn? Fine, she sighed, finally giving in to the nagging voice in her head. She had been the one to send him there. After all, the least she could do was show a little mercy. She picked up the phone and dialed the jail administrator. This is Claire Sinclair. I'm calling about the man who was brought in 3 days ago. How is he? If he's ready to admit his mistake. She was cut off by an alarmed voice on the other end. Ms. Sinclair? You don't know? He was beaten by his cellmates that night. Severe internal bleeding. An ambulance took him away for emergency surgery. You didn't get a call from the hospital? A sledgehammer slammed into Claire's brain, leaving a ringing void. Beaten? Internal bleeding? Surgery. She shot to her feet, screaming into the phone. Which hospital? When did this happen? How is he now? Midtown General, 3 nights ago. We don't know the outcome of the surgery. Her fingers trembled as she hung up, her heart constricting with a pain so sharp it stole her breath. 3 nights ago. She remembered her phone ringing while she was in the shower. Could that have been? She grabbed her coat and keys, bolting from her office like a woman possessed. Claire's black Bentley weaved through traffic, blowing through red light after red light. The sound of screeching tires and angry horns was a symphony of chaos behind her. 2 police motorcycles were already in pursuit, sirens wailing. She slammed the car to a halt in front of the emergency room entrance and burst out before it had even stopped moving. 2 officers immediately moved to block her path. Ma'am, stop right there. You're under arrest for reckless driving. Claire's eyes were wild. Get out of my way. She hurled her purse, hitting one of the officers in the face. Do you have any idea who I am? I am Claire Sinclair. I generate half of this city's damn economy. I could run someone over today, and you wouldn't dare touch me. She shoved past them and ran to the front desk. Leo Anderson. I'm looking for Leo Anderson. What room is he in? The nurse on duty jumped. We have no patient by that name on the general floors. Claire's heart was about to pound its way out of her chest. Then check the ICU. He was badly injured. He has to be in the ICU. The nurse began typing, muttering to herself, Strange, so many people are looking for him today. Claire grabbed the nurse's wrist. Who else was looking for him? A man in a very expensive suit, the nurse stammered. He was here about half an hour ago. Caleb? Claire paused for a second. They were friends for years. Maybe he heard what happened and came to visit. She dismissed the thought, her impatience returning. Well, did you find him? The nurse checked the ICU registry again. There's no record of a Leo Anderson being admitted to any of our intensive care units. That's impossible. Claire shrieked. He was brought here 3 nights ago from the county jail. Internal bleeding. How can there be no record? The panicked nurse made several frantic calls. Finally, she put the phone down, her face pale. Ma'am, maybe you should try asking downstairs. In the basement. The basement? Without another question, she turned and sprinted toward the stairwell the nurse had indicated. The basement corridor was dimly lit and eerily silent. A damp chill seeped through her thin coat, raising goosebumps on her arms. What is this place? She muttered, her footsteps echoing as she walked faster. I'll have him transferred to the VIP wing immediately. The husband of Claire Sinclair can't be kept in a dungeon like this. She looked for room numbers, but there were none. Just cold, concrete walls, locked storage doors, and discarded medical equipment. The corridor stretched on, getting darker. Finally, she reached the end. There was only one door, a white, metal one slightly ajar. A bone-chilling cold and a strange white light emanated from within. Claire's steps faltered. A primal fear, unlike anything she had ever known, seized her. She slowly lifted her head, her eyes fixing on a small metal plate on the doorframe. Engraved on it were 2 simple, black words, morgue. The heavy fog of deep hypnosis began to lift. Leo opened his eyes. Dr. Reed handed him a glass of water. How are you feeling? He took a sip. Better. Dr. Reed was quiet for a moment. Mr. Anderson, during the session, you repeatedly cried out a name in a state of extreme agitation. Claire Sinclair. Leo's fingers tightened unconsciously on the glass. Is everything you've been through, she continued gently, related to this woman? Leo's gaze was steady. She's my ex-wife. Dr. Reed nodded thoughtfully. And the trauma you've experienced, is it connected to your time in prison? Leo's head snapped up. How did she know he'd been in prison? Fragments of memory clicked into place. A sterile visitation room. A psychiatrist in a white coat asking routine questions. It was her. No wonder she'd looked familiar. A bitter, ironic laugh escaped him. So, the psychiatrist assigned to do my mental evaluation at Northwood State Penitentiary 3 years ago was you, Dr. Reed. Evelyn Reed nodded calmly. Yes, I was contracted by the Department of Justice to conduct a standard assessment. Leo let out another mirthless chuckle. Now you know I'm not just a murderer, but a con who did 3 years of hard time. How's that make you feel? His question was barbed, a defense mechanism honed by years of being judged and trampled on. Evelyn met his probing gaze without flinching. My only duty is to help my patient recover. I hope you can believe that. Her eyes were sincere, unwavering. And for what it's worth, back then, although you were in a terrible state, you were completely lucid. You told me, very firmly, that you did not kill anyone, that you were innocent. Leo's breath caught in his throat. If you remember that I was lucid, then what the hell was in that report you filed? The conclusion submitted to the court had stated he'd had a psychotic break, resulting in an unintentional homicide. That report sealed my fate. It branded me a killer and took away my last chance to appeal. I spent 3 years living like an animal, wondering if maybe I really had gone crazy that night. His voice cracked, his eyes turning red. Evelyn shot up from her chair. What? That's impossible. Her usual calm was gone. The report I submitted stated explicitly that while you were suffering from significant trauma, your mind was clear and your logic sound. I wrote that your claim of innocence was credible and recommended further investigation by the authorities. Leo's anger froze on his face, morphing into stunned confusion. You're saying you didn't write that report? Absolutely not, Evelyn stated, her voice ringing with certainty. Their eyes met. The psychiatric evaluation that had damned him as both a madman and a murderer had been a forgery? Claire. It had to be her. Only she had the power and the resources to alter a key piece of judicial evidence. She didn't just want him in jail. She wanted him to believe that he, in a fit of madness, had killed her with his own hands. This was the woman he had loved. He doubled over, gagging, the tears he had held back for so long finally breaking free. Evelyn steadied him by the shoulder. Are you all right? He gasped for air. Dr. Reed, I need you to give me the original copy of that report. Whatever it takes. I'll pay any price. Claire stared at the half-open door to the morgue, whispering the same words over and over. No, it can't be. There's been a mistake. She finally forced her legs to move, inching toward the doorway and peering through the gap. The room was bathed in a harsh, fluorescent light, illuminating rows of stainless steel lockers. A man in a tailored suit stood with his back to her, looking down at a gurney. Claire's heart ceased. It was Caleb. He slowly bent down, took hold of the white sheet covering the body, and pulled it back. A face was revealed in the stark light. It was barely a face at all, a swollen, bloody pulp of flesh, the features completely unrecognizable. Huh! Caleb seemed to startle, stumbling back a step and covering his mouth. But then, something even more horrifying happened. He pointed a finger at the mangled face and began to laugh. It started as a low, suppressed chuckle, then grew louder and louder, until he was bent over, howling with laughter. Ha! 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 The sound echoed in the dead silence of the morgue, chilling her to the bone. Claire's eyes followed his pointing finger, locking onto the pinky finger of the corpse. On it was a sapphire ring, caked in dry blood. Her sapphire ring, the one she had given to Leo, the free gift. All the blood rushed to her head. The mangled, broken body on that cold steel table was Leo. He was dead. Her limbs went numb. She couldn't think, couldn't move. Caleb, still laughing hysterically, roughly yanked the ring off the corpse's finger. Ah, it's mine now, he cackled, clutching the bloody ring in his fist. You were nothing but a worthless con. You didn't even deserve the free gift. Everything she has belongs to me. Me. Ha! The shock finally broke. Claire shoved the door open. Caleb. He jumped, whirling around, the laughter dying on his lips. Sentez-vous Claire? In a flash, his expression shifted to one of profound grief. Claire, what are you doing here? Leo, he's dead. She pushed his hand away, her gaze fixed on the gurney. The closer she got, the clearer it became. The cold body was a canvas of horrors, the angry, red welts from the scalding water, the deep purple bruises from countless beatings. And on his forehead, a deep, jagged gash from the night at the gala, when she had forced him to prove his innocence by throwing himself down the stairs. A strangled sob escaped her throat. The room spun, and she collapsed, fainting onto the cold, unforgiving floor of the morgue. Caleb stood over her, his face still a mask of sorrow. He glanced from Claire's unconscious form to the body on the gurney. A slow, cold smile spread across his lips. Claire dreamed. She was standing before a massive, iron cauldron, a raging fire blazing beneath it. Claire! Claire! A weak, broken voice called her name, bubbling up from the boiling water. Who is it? She held her breath, and peered into the churning cauldron. Whoosh! A face burst through the surface, right in front of her. The skin was red and peeling, covered in blisters. It was unrecognizable, except for the eyes. They were burning with a hatred so pure it scorched her soul. It was Leo. A.H. Claire screamed, bolting upright in bed. She was gasping for air, her pajamas soaked in a cold sweat. A gentle, concerned voice spoke beside her. "Claire, you're finally awake." Caleb was there, dabbing her forehead with a soft towel. "You were unconscious for 3 days. The doctor said it was acute shock. You scare me to death." He offered her a bowl of steaming soup. "Here, drink this. I just made it." The steam billowed in her face, instantly bringing back the image of the boiling cauldron, of that terrifying face. The morgue, the body, the ring, Caleb's insane laughter. Claire slapped the bowl away. Hot soup splashed across Caleb's arm, turning the skin bright red. "Ow, that's hot." Seeing him cry out in pain, another image flashed in her mind. Leo, being shoved into that icy pool, the agony he must have felt. She grabbed the front of his shirt. "What did you mean in the morgue? What were you laughing at?" A flicker of panic crossed Caleb's eyes, but he quickly composed himself. "Claire, you must have been hallucinating from a shock. I was devastated. Leo was my best friend. I was crying, laughing. I was out of my mind with grief. His performance was nearly flawless." Claire let him go, breathing heavily. "The body. Where is it? I need to see it. Now." Caleb adopted a sorrowful expression. "The hospital has a 5-day policy for holding remains. You were unconscious for 3 of them. I couldn't wake you." He sighed. "I couldn't bear to leave him in that cold place any longer. I took the liberty of signing the papers. For the cremation." Cremation? The word struck her like lightning. "I didn't even get a clear look. How could you? How dare you?" She couldn't believe it. She wouldn't allow it. How could Leo be dead? How could he be nothing more than a box of ash? Caleb looked pained. "Claire, I know this is hard, but Leo is gone. Let me take care of you now, just like I have for the past 3 years." That phrase, "just like I have," cut her to the quick. The same? How can it be the same? 3 years ago, he was in prison. I could have gotten him out with a single phone call whenever I wanted. Her voice rose with desperation and agony. But now, he's dead. He's been cremated. He's ash. You tell me how that's the same. The wild, desperate look in her eyes unnerved Caleb, but his obsession had blinded him. He grabbed her arm. "Claire, I can marry you. I'll run the household. I'll help with the company. I'll make you the happiest woman alive." Suddenly, Claire began to laugh, a low, hollow sound. "Marry you." She lifted her bloodshot eyes to his, and with each word, she dismantled his fantasy. "Caleb, don't you get it? You and I, we were just a game. The only man I have ever loved from the beginning to the end was Leo Anderson." The words were a knife, gutting him of all his hopes and pretenses. He shook his head, his voice high and sharp. "You're lying. If you loved him, why did you send him to prison? Why did you pay people to torture him? You screamed at him. You hid him from me. You hated him. You couldn't possibly love him." This had been his unwavering belief, the foundation of his entire scheme. His accusations only deepened the pain in Claire's eyes. "That was between him and me," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "It was never your place to ask. But I never, not for 1 second, considered divorcing him. And I certainly never planned on marrying you." Caleb staggered back, the color draining from his face. Then what were the last 3 years? What was I? He had plotted and schemed to get Leo out of the picture, believing that with him gone, he would naturally take his place. He wouldn't have to watch from the sidelines anymore, faking a smile, while Leo had everything he ever wanted. "Claire, he's dead. He's gone. I'm the only one left who truly loves you." She stared into his jealous, desperate eyes. His manic laughter in the morgue echoed in her ears. Could it be? Could Leo's death have something to do with him? All of it, the fall down the stairs, the stolen watch. Was it all? She had to know the truth. For Leo. Claire took a deep breath, forcing a calm she didn't feel. "Caleb, go home for now. I need some time alone. I need to think." A flicker of hope ignited in Caleb's chest. Yes, she just needs time to accept it. Leo just died. It's natural for her to be confused. He quickly put on his understanding facade. "Of course. I'll go. You get some rest. I'll be waiting to hear from you." The moment he left, Claire pulled out her phone and dialed her assistant. "I need you to pull all the security footage from the night of the gala, specifically the area around the main staircase. And one more thing," she added, her voice hardening. "Get the best video forensics team you can find. I want a high-definition enhancement of the security footage from the house, the night the watch was stolen. I want to see the face of the person who went into that room. Right away, Ms. Sinclair." Hanging up, she collapsed back onto the bed, throwing an arm over her eyes, blocking out the light and the tears that she could no longer hold back. In the darkness, memories of Leo flooded in. The first time they met, his face a mixture of fear and fierce determination after the car crash. The brilliant joy on his face when he proposed. The quiet, gentle line of his profile as he stood in the kitchen, wearing an apron, making her soup. Leo. She curled into a ball, a choked sob escaping her lips. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. An hour later, the security footage from the gala arrived on her phone. She took a breath and pressed play. On the screen, she watched as Leo turned to leave and Caleb grabbed his wrist, throwing himself backward down the stairs. Leo hadn't pushed him at all. Claire's breath hitched. She froze the frame. In that split second before he fell, a triumphant smirk was plastered on Caleb's face. Then came the part she remembered all too well, her own arrival, the immediate accusations, the public shaming. And finally, the image of Leo, his face a mask of resigned agony, throwing himself down the same stairs to prove his innocence. Claire dug her hands in her hair, pulling at the roots. It was all a setup, a sick, twisted play directed by Caleb. She was consumed by regret. Why hadn't she checked the cameras? If she had just looked, none of this would have happened. Leo might still be alive. Her phone rang. It was her assistant, Ms. Sinclair. The enhanced video from the house is ready, but the file is massive. It will be difficult to send securely. I'm on my way to the office now. Claire couldn't wait another second. She had to know everything. She grabbed her keys and ran from the mansion, not noticing the figure lurking in the shadows by the main gate. Caleb had never left. He'd been listening to her entire conversation. His mind raced, a desperate, dangerous plan forming. Claire's Bentley sped toward the city. She pulled up in front of the Sinclair Tower and strode toward the entrance, her mind focused on one thing, seeing that video. Suddenly, screams erupted around her. Look out! Above you! It's falling! Claire instinctively looked up. A massive pane of glass was plummeting from one of the upper floors, heading straight for her. In that microsecond before impact, a figure lunged at her. Claire! Watch out! He shoved her out of the way with all his might. Crash! The glass shattered over the man who had pushed her, a spiderweb of cracks spreading across his body, followed by a bloom of crimson blood. Claire scrambled back, turning in horror. Caleb lay in a heap of shattered glass and blood. She crawled to his side, lifting his head. Caleb? Caleb, are you okay? Somebody call an ambulance. She stared at his wounds, at the blood soaking his expensive suit, her mind completely blank. How could this? Why was it him? The ambulance arrived, its siren screaming. Paramedics carefully lifted a barely conscious Caleb onto a stretcher. The red light above the operating room door glowed ominously. Claire leaned against the cold hospital wall, staring at the words surgery in progress. A few minutes ago, she had been vowing to destroy this man, to make him pay for what he did to Leo. And now, he had just saved her life. Her phone buzzed again. Her assistant, Ms. Sinclair, the video is on your office computer. Are you still coming to see it? Claire looked at the closed doors of the operating room. Just wait. Inside the operating room, as the anesthetic began to take hold, Caleb faintly heard her words through the door. Just wait. A wave of relief washed over him. A life for a life. Let's see how she treats her savior now. During Caleb's recovery, Claire stayed by his side. The night he was discharged back to the mansion, he took her hand, his face a picture of remorse. Claire, there's something I have to tell you. His voice was thick with emotion. The night of the gala, Leo didn't push me down the stairs. I lost my footing, and when I fell, I panicked. I blamed him. He looked up, tears in his eyes. I was just trying to mess with him. I never thought it would go so far. I'm so sorry. He delivered the lines with the conviction of a master actor. Claire let out a heavy sigh, patting his hand. It's in the past. He's gone now. There's no point in talking about it. Her reaction made Caleb's heart leap. His sacrifice had worked. She wasn't going to dig any deeper. But then she changed the subject. Caleb, it's not appropriate for you to keep staying here. You should find your own place. His face fell. She was still trying to get rid of him. He nodded obediently. Okay, I understand. I'll go pack. He went to his guest room and began slowly packing the few things he had there. Suddenly, he let out a sharp gasp. Claire appeared in the doorway. What is it? Caleb was holding an envelope. Claire, I just found this in an old coat pocket. I think it's Leo's handwriting. Claire's heart stopped. She took the envelope. It was Leo's script, clear and familiar. It was addressed to her. Holding her breath, she tore it open and unfolded the single sheet of paper inside. Claire, I can't adjust to the world out here. I can't go on. Caleb is my best friend. He's the one who was there for you when I couldn't be. After I'm gone, marry him. Let him love you for me. Goodbye. The letter trembled in her hands. Tears streamed down her face. Caleb immediately rushed to her side, pulling her into an embrace. Claire, don't. Please don't. He buried his face in her shoulder, a triumphant smile spreading across his lips, hidden from her view. It had worked. He knew that invoking Leo's name was the only way to break her. Claire looked from the suicide note to the man holding her. You can stay. For now, she added, her voice hollow. The wedding will be in 1 month. Caleb could have shouted for joy, but then she pushed him away. I am only marrying you to honor Leo's last wish. We will live separately. This will be a marriage in name only. Her words were a bucket of ice water, extinguishing half his elation. She was just using him as a tool to fulfill Leo's dying request. Fine. As long as he became the legal Mr. Sinclair, he would have plenty of time to change her mind. He went back to his room and closed the door, unable to contain his giddy excitement. Leo, you magnificent bastard, he whispered. Even in death, you're still helping me out. He imagined himself at the altar, standing beside Claire, the envy of the entire world. He had no idea that in the next room, the grief had already vanished from Claire's face. This sudden suicide note was the final, fatal mistake in his brilliant little game. She picked up her phone and dialed her assistant. I have a document here. I need it sent to the best handwriting expert in the country. 2 weeks later, the results came back. After extensive analysis, the submitted document shows significant deviations from the known handwriting samples of Mr. Leo Anderson. It is a highly skilled forgery. At the same time, another report landed on her desk. Ms. Sinclair, per your request, we tracked Mr. Vance's recent movements. We have evidence of him visiting a workshop known for producing high-quality forged documents. Furthermore, her assistant's email continued. We located the foreman from the glass installation company. He confessed that Mr. Vance paid him a substantial sum to rig the window pane and drop it at the precise moment you arrived at the building. It was all clear now. The frame up at the gala, the staged rescue, the forged suicide note. She didn't even need to see the enhanced security footage anymore. She knew what it would show. Caleb Vance, she thought, a cold smile touching her lips. The game is over. At the wellness retreat in Norway, Leo sat across from Dr. Reed, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Evelyn finished reviewing the final psychological assessment, a thick stack of papers. Over the past month, Leo had transformed. The therapy had helped him process the trauma, and a boxing coach he'd hired had chiseled his body into a weapon. Finally, she closed the report and looked up at him, a relieved smile on her face. Congratulations, Mr. Anderson. According to every metric, your physical injuries have completely healed. In fact, you're stronger than you were before, and the psychological wounds have largely scarred over. Leo let out a long, slow breath. Evelyn's eyes twinkled. Honestly, in your current condition, if you were to punch me, I'd probably be in the hospital for a month. For the first time in a long time, a genuine smile touched Leo's lips. She then retrieved a sealed manila envelope from her desk and handed it to him. And this, the original legally certified copy of the psychiatric evaluation I wrote for you in prison. Leo took the envelope. It's time. His eyes burned with the fire of rebirth and revenge. Dr. Reed, thank you for everything. She smiled. It was your own strength that performed the miracle. The rest of the journey is yours alone. Be well. After leaving her office, Leo made an overseas call. His lawyer touched Leo's lips. She then retrieved a sealed manila envelope from her desk and handed it to him. And this, the original legally certified copy of the psychiatric evaluation I wrote for you in prison. Leo took the envelope. It's time. His eyes burned with the fire of rebirth and revenge. Dr. Reed, thank you for everything. She smiled. It was your own strength that performed the miracle. The rest of the journey is yours alone. Be well. After leaving her office, Leo made an overseas call. His lawyer answered immediately. Mr. Anderson, you finally called. There's news. Claire Sinclair is marrying Caleb Vance. The wedding is in 3 days. Leo scoffed. Oh, they couldn't wait to make it official. Apparently, the lawyer said, his tone dripping with disbelief, she claims to have found a suicide note from you, in which you ask her to marry him. Leo laughed. A suicide note? Caleb's methods are as pathetic as they are predictable. Good. Saves me the trouble of hunting them down one by one. His voice was chillingly calm, completely in control. Give me an invitation. I plan on making a resurrection at their wedding. An inheritance? Where are we with that? All legal documents are finalized, the lawyer replied. All assets, including controlling interest in the Sinclair Corporation, have been transferred to your name. She's a queen with no kingdom. She just doesn't know it yet. The notary will make the official announcement when you and Ms. Sinclair are both present to witness it. A cold, sharp smile curved Leo's lips. Then let's schedule it for the wedding day. The notary can deliver the news personally, right when she and her new husband are feeling most triumphant. I'll arrange everything, the lawyer said, a thrill in his voice. Hanging up, Leo walked to a full-length mirror. The man looking back at him was tanned and powerful. The eyes that had once been filled with fear and pain were now sharp, deep, and lethal. Claire, Caleb, are you ready? Though she knew the truth, Claire didn't cancel the wedding. She would let Caleb have his moment of glory, and then, in front of everyone, she would burn his world to the ground. Caleb, blissfully unaware, was ecstatic. He ran a hand over his custom-made Italian tuxedo, the collar and cuffs glittering with thousands of hand-set diamonds. He was trembling with anticipation. On the day of the wedding, nearly every member of New York's high society was in attendance. As the music swelled, Caleb walked onto the stage, beaming. Wow, his tuxedo must have 1,000 diamonds on it. That's the Sinclair Corporation for you. They don't do anything small. Caleb savored the envious whispers from the crowd. He sneered internally. Leo, you poor bastard. I've finally taken your place. Claire stood at the center of the stage in a simple white gown, her face grim, devoid of any bridal joy. Caleb's heart sank. He gently touched her arm. Claire, what's wrong? She ignored him and nodded to someone in the crowd. The celebratory music cut off abruptly. The massive screen behind the stage flickered to life. The first clip showed a slow-motion replay of Caleb throwing himself down the stairs of the gala. The second showed him, dressed in Leo's pajamas, sneaking into his own room to plant the stolen watch. The third was footage from the jail's visitation room, showing his meeting with the inmate who had beaten Leo. Next came an audio recording of the glass foreman's shaky confession. Mr. Vance, he paid me to drop the glass. And finally, another call. I need you to forge a suicide note in his handwriting. Here's what it needs to say. Money is no object. No, Caleb shrieked, lunging at the screen. It's fake. It's all fake. He tried desperately to block the images. The hall erupted in chaos. The envy and admiration turned to disgust. My God, he's a monster. He framed him for everything. And faked saving her life? That's sick. How could she marry someone like that? The insults and jeers rained down on him. Caleb pointed a shaking finger at the crowd. Shut up. All of you shut up. I'm Mr. Sinclair now. I'm the president's husband. You can't talk to me like that. Claire stood aside, watching coldly as he unraveled, finally collapsing to the stage in a sobbing heap. The rage she had suppressed for weeks was finally released. Just then, the image on the screen changed. It was a black and white photograph of Leo, his smile gentle, his eyes clear. Claire's heart felt like it was being ripped from her chest. She signaled her bodyguards, who marched onto the stage and hauled the whimpering Caleb to his feet. They dragged him in front of the photograph and forced him to his knees. Apologize. Claire's eyes were bloodshot. Apologize to him. You pathetic, worthless animal. She threw her head back and screamed at the silent ballroom. Leo, I've gotten your revenge. The hall was dead silent, save for her anguished cries and Caleb's hopeless sobs. And then, from the darkest corner of the room, came the slow, deliberate sound of clapping. Clap, clap, clap. Everyone, including Claire and Caleb on the stage, froze, turning toward the sound. A figure slowly rose from a table in the shadows. He was wearing an impeccably tailored velvet tuxedo, a matching fedora tilted low over his eyes. He continued to clap as he walked toward the stage. What a magnificent performance, he said, his voice smooth and laced with irony. I'm so glad I came. I would have hated to miss it. Under the stunned gaze of hundreds of guests, he reached the front of the stage, stepping into the bright spotlight. He stopped, and slowly, he removed his sunglasses. It was a handsome, hardened face, a mocking smile playing on his lips. It was Leo. Caleb let out a piercing shriek. A ghost. He scrambled backward on all fours, his eyes wide with terror. Claire was frozen solid, staring at the living, breathing man before her. Leo? You're not dead. Leo's gaze swept dismissively over the pathetic form of Caleb, finally landing on Claire. Claire, he said, his voice dangerously soft. I hear you've used my suicide note to remarry. Claire stumbled down from the stage, rushing toward him. Her hands trembled as she grabbed his arms, feeling his warmth, the steady pulse beneath his skin. He was real. She threw herself into his arms, her words a jumbled, sobbing mess. Leo, it's really you. I was so stupid. I was a fool. I'm so sorry. She pointed a shaking finger back at the cowering Caleb. It was all him. He tricked me. He framed you. But I found out. I exposed him in front of everyone for you. Leo shoved her away so hard she staggered back. He looked at her with pure, unadulterated contempt. Revenge for me? Claire, is that supposed to be a joke? He stalked toward her, his presence overwhelming. The person who deserves to be punished most of all. Isn't it you? He brushed past her, walked onto the stage, and took the microphone from the stunned MC. He scanned the shocked faces in the crowd. What you've just seen was the work of Mr. Caleb Vance. Now, allow me to tell you about the contributions of my dear wife, Ms. Claire Sinclair, and her role in sending me to hell. His voice was even, but every word was a death sentence. He told them everything. How Claire had orchestrated the wedding night nightmare. How she had paid to have his psychiatric evaluation forged. He told them how, for 3 years, she had paid inmates to torture him daily, while she carried on an affair with his best friend. The murmurs in the crowd exploded into a roar of outrage, now directed entirely at the ashen-faced Claire. She's a monster. How could anyone do that to their own husband, the CEO of Sinclair? My God, she's pure evil. Claire's composure finally shattered. She ran toward him, her voice frantic. Leo, no, it wasn't like that. He manipulated me. He twisted my mind. I love you, Leo. I've always loved you. Leo reached into his jacket and pulled out 2 documents. The original, authentic psychiatric report from Dr. Reed and a printout of the wire transfers to the prison gang leader. He threw them in her face. The papers fluttered to the floor. Claire scrambled to pick them up. As she read them, the last of the color drained from her face. This can't be. She grabbed his arm, her eyes pleading. It was the Sinclair family tradition, a test of loyalty for a new spouse. I was a fool. I listened to Caleb. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me just this once. Her voice dropped to a pathetic whisper. I'll give you everything to make it up to you. My money, the houses, the company, it's all yours. Just come back to me. Compensate me? Leo laughed as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. With what? Before he could finish, Caleb, who had been a puddle on the floor, suddenly crawled over, possessed by a manic energy. He clutched Claire's legs, shrieking, No, you can't. That's all mine. My money, my houses. I'm your husband. He's a ghost. Claire kicked him away viciously. Get off me, you lunatic. Caleb tumbled backward, then began to laugh and cry at the same time, muttering about ghosts and money. His mind had completely snapped. Leo watched unmoved. He clapped his hands twice. 2 men in formal suits walked onto the stage. They were public notaries. One of them opened a legal portfolio and, in a loud, clear voice, addressed the stunned audience. By legal decree, Ms. Claire Sinclair was previously declared deceased. According to the laws of succession, all assets held in her name, including controlling shares of the Sinclair Corporation, all real estate holdings, and all liquid capital, have been fully and legally inherited by her lawful spouse, Mr. Leo Anderson. This transfer is effective immediately. Claire staggered back, shaking her head wildly. No, that's impossible. The Sinclair Corporation is mine. But the blows kept coming. 2 uniformed police officers walked onto the stage, holding up a warrant. Ms. Claire Sinclair, you are under arrest for the falsification of judicial documents, reckless endangerment, and assault of a law enforcement officer. With a sharp click, a pair of handcuffs snapped around her wrists. Panic finally consumed her. She struggled against the officers, screaming at Leo. Leo, save me. Tell them it's a misunderstanding. Help me. Leo looked at the wreck of a woman she had become and slowly walked toward her. Then, in front of everyone, he drew back his fist and delivered a sharp, vicious hook to her jaw. Crack! Claire grunted in pain, stars exploding behind her eyes. Leo shook out his hand, his gaze as cold as ice. Don't worry, Claire. I'll make sure the special care you receive in prison is handled personally. I guarantee it will be even more attentive than the care you arrange for me. Hearing this, her pupils constricted in terror. The police expressionlessly escorted the catatonic Claire off the stage. Paramedics and another pair of officers came for the laughing, crying Caleb. The grand, grotesque wedding was finally over. Leo picked up the microphone one last time, his eyes sweeping over the silent, staring guests. As of this moment, I, Leo Anderson, am the new president and majority shareholder of the Sinclair Corporation. The past is now officially over. In the bright glare of the spotlight, he stood tall, his eyes sharp, as if the darkness and humiliation had never touched him. His era had just begun.